Hi everyone, welcome back to Fat Cat Maths. This week we're going to be looking at soHCAHTOA. In an exam, if you're given a right-angled triangle, you're probably going to be asked to do one of two things. Either calculate the length of the missing side, or calculate the size of the missing angle. With right-angled triangles, there are two methods that really should spring to mind. The first one is Pythagoras, and the second one is soHCAHTOA, which is part of trigonometry. Pythagoras is used to find missing sides only, but soHCAHTOA can do both. You can use it to find the missing side or the missing angle. So let's take a look at what soHCAHTOA actually means. soHCAHTOA is essentially a made-up word used to remember three different equations. The first letter of each of these parts is the subject, then we put the middle one on the top, and then we divide the middle letter by the bottom letter. So we will end up with S equals O over H, C equals A over H, or T equals O over A. The coloured letters S, C, and T are just numbers on your calculator. If you have a scientific calculator, you'll be able to see the sin, cos, and tan buttons. The other letters stand for labels of your triangle. H stands for hypotenuse, O stands for opposite, and A stands for adjacent. The way in which you label your triangle changes depending on what information you're given. So let's look at which label goes where. The first thing you should always do is label your hypotenuse, because it's the longest side and easiest to spot. The second line you should label is your opposite. You can find the opposite by looking at whatever angle they've either given you or asked you to find, and finding the line that is opposite that. Whichever side is remaining should be your adjacent. Pause the video and see if you can label these triangles correctly. Okay, so as always, you label the hypotenuse first, which is your longest side. Then we're being told that one of the degrees is 39, so opposite that will be our opposite, and the remaining is our adjacent. Then for the middle triangle, going to label the longest side H. The line opposite 47 degrees is our O, and the remaining line is A. Then, lastly, I'm going to label my longest side H, opposite the X degrees is my opposite, and the remaining is A. It's really important to get this right before you start trying to use soHCAHTOA, so if you didn't get this quite right, give it another go and see if you can spot your mistakes. So, once you've labelled it, you can choose which of the three equations you're going to need. To do that, you need to make a note of which two sides are important. Sides are important if you're either given information about them or you're being asked to find out information about them. And then you have to find the equation that has both of these in it. In this example, we are given information about A and O, so they are our important sides. The equation that has both O and A in it is our last one, T. So that's the equation that I would use with this example. So now that we know how to label our triangle and pick the right equation, let's go through how to use it. In this example, we're being asked to find the missing length, x. So first I'm going to label my triangle. The longest side is H, the side opposite 35 degrees is O, and the remaining is A. And then I'm going to write out soHCAHTOA and find which equation has both of the important bits in it. I'm given information about A, and I want to find O. Again, tan has both O and A in it, so we're going to use that equation. Your first step is to expand the equation. T stands for tan, so I'm going to write tan, and then the degrees always goes after this first letter. Whether it's known or unknown, it doesn't matter. This is where you put your degrees. Then I'm going to replace O. We don't know what this is yet, so I'm going to write down X. And then I'm going to replace A. We know that this is 10. The next step is just like in algebra. We want to get x on its own and make it the subject. The only thing stopping x from being on its own is that it's being divided by 10. I can get rid of that by doing the opposite thing to the other side. So I'm going to times the other side by a 10 so that I can get rid of the divided by 10. At this point, x is on its own and I have all of the information that I need, so I can put this straight into a calculator. Let's try again with this example. So I'm looking for the missing side x. So first I'm going to label my triangle with h, the longest side, o, the opposite side to my angle, and a, the remaining side. Then I'm going to write out soHCAHTOA and find whichever equation has my two important sides in. We're given information about o and we're looking for h, so those are my important sides. The equation I want here is going to be sin. So just like before, I'm going to expand. S stands for sin, and then just after that I'm going to put the angle, which is 40, and that equals O, which I know to be 5, divided by H, which I'm going to put down as X. If what you need to be on its own is being divided by something else, you can't move it straight away. You're going to have to do it in 2 steps. To do that, I'm going to first move the X. On the right-hand side, it's being divided, so I can get rid of that by timesing the left-hand side by x instead. Now I can move sin 40 to get x completely on its own. The sin 40 is being timesed on the left-hand side, so if I do the opposite thing on the right-hand side, I can move it. So now it's going to be 5 divided by sin 40, and that gets me x on its own. At this stage, I can put things into a calculator, so I'm going to do sin 40, find out the answer for that, and then 5 divided by the answer. At this point, it's quite important to note that in our 2 previous examples, we've been trying to find the missing side. If we're trying to find a missing angle, things are slightly different, but the majority of the process is the same. Let's go through a worked example. Here I'm trying to find the missing angle, so I'm going to label my triangle as normal. H is the longest side, O will be opposite to the x degrees, and A will be whatever is left over. Then I'm going to write out soHCAHTOA and find my 2 important sides. A and O have both been given to us, so those are the important sides. And the equation that has both of these in is tan, so that's the equation that we're going to be using. So now I'm going to expand just like before. T stands for tan. I'm going to put the angle after this, which we don't know, so I'm going to put in as x. And then I'm going to replace O with 10 and A with 12. Next, I need to make x the subject, and this is where things get slightly different. The thing that's stopping x from being on its own at the moment is that it's being timesed by tan. It's not as easy as just dividing the other side by tan, because tan, sin, and cos are unique. The opposite of tan is a tan to the negative 1, the opposite of sin is sin to the negative 1, and the opposite of cos is cos to the negative 1. So that means if I put it onto the other side of the equals, I have to make it tan to the negative 1. These functions can seem a bit intimidating if you haven't seen them before, but they're actually just buttons on your calculator. All scientific calculators can be a bit different, but normally all you have to do is look for the shift button in the top left-hand corner, and then press either tan, sin, or cos. Doing this will get you to a tan negative 1, sin negative 1, or cos negative 1. So now I know where to find this function, I can put all of this straight into my calculator. This then tells me that x equals 39.81 degrees. Here are a few questions to practice yourself. Some of them are missing angles and some are missing sides. Pause the video and see if you can go from start to finish for all 3. Okay, so for the first one, for x, the answer was 46.2 degrees. For the second one, the missing side was 309.2 millimeters. And for the last triangle, the missing angle was 39.2 degrees. A huge well done if you got these right. These are tricky questions and it's not an easy topic to get your head around, so if you manage that, that's fantastic. Okay, so let's take a look at a quick summary. If you're given a right-angled triangle, the two things that should pop into your head are Pythagoras and SOHCAHTOA. You'll probably be asked to find a missing side or a missing angle, and these are the only two methods that you'll need to do that. To label a triangle, always label your longest side first. This is your hypotenuse. The second side you should label is your opposite. This is whatever is on the opposite of the angle you have either been given or given to find. The remaining side should be labelled as your adjacent. Lastly, soHCAHTOA is a word used to remember three separate equations. The first letter is the subject, the middle letter goes on top, and this is divided by the third letter. Okay, that is the end of the video. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. This is not an easy topic and it was quite a long video, so well done if you're still here. Please hit that subscribe button. I'm a brand new channel, so it would really help me out. Thank you again for your time and I will see you next week.